Hello friends, this is Nitin and I welcome you to my startup podcast channel Desire Audio, where we share real stories with real learnings. Now, Steve Jobs once mentioned what separates the successful entrepreneurs from non-successful ones is sheer perseverance, and what many experts also say, you either adapt or you fail. So today, friends, I have a similar story of introducing Rupam Das, an entrepreneur since the age of 11 and the founder and CEO of Acculi Labs based in Bangalore. And in this podcast, Rupam will share his own experience of when COVID-19 heavily impacted his venture, how he literally pulled from a near death nail experience to a roaring success that it is today. Hi Rupam, welcome to Desire Audio and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me in your show, Nitinji.
So let's start with how COVID-19 really impacted your venture, Acculi Labs.
Nitinji, as you know, Acculi Labs is a company which was mainly into point-of-care diagnostics with our product Lyphus, which is a mobile-based diagnostic tool. Okay. And on March 17 this year, we were supposed to go live across various hospitals. But unfortunately, that was the time when the lockdown happened. And we could not really go live with our commercial drive at that time. And we were exhausted with all our raised funds, and we were depending upon the revenue that were to be generated from this OPD screening cardiovascular patient, to be more specific. And so we were left with zero money, we were left with lockdown, and the company was on the verge of collapse by March 25th, 26th. We had zero money to drive the business forward. It was very horrific at that stage. So when the lockdown was declared and when the hospitals denied the screening, which was supposed to give us the revenue that was supposed to generate the company, we thought it was all over for us.
Okay, so I believe you quickly pivoted your product from cardiovascular to COVID-19 detection in flat 30 days. How did you do that?
Okay, so we told the team that, we probably have 30 days of time to do something out of that. We thought that lockdown would probably not be getting over anytime sooner. We knew that. So I told my team that, we have to pull out something miracle to save the company. Okay. And because we were into cardiovascular analysis, cardiovascular screening, and the initial data that was coming out of Wuhan about COVID, it suggested that COVID was a vascular disease. Yeah. So we started screening few of the COVID patients. We had the belief that we could possibly be able to detect COVID, and we pivoted, we repurposed our application to detect asymptomatic patients, which was a challenge at that stage. Okay. We had some initial proof, and we talked to Medanta Medicity Hospital, Gurgaon. We showed them the proof, the data of the screening successes, and they allowed us to sponsor the full-fledged clinical trial, which was approved by the ethics committee on April 19th. Okay. So that gave us the fresh breath of air at that stage. After which, of course, few of the angels, they put up some debt fund to drive our company. So, when your company, when you are in the verge of the collapse and you know that you don't have finances and probably not much of market capital is going to come if there was a lockdown, we were left with no choices. So we had no money and we had to crack a very complicated science within 30 days and it with success. And I'm thankful to the team and the people who gave us that opportunity. There were many. So that really was a very, very fascinating journey of 30 days.
Wow. So I believe you had even applied for Department of Science and Technology under Kawach Grant. How was that experience?
Okay, so there are various grants in India where they offer grant program to startups, particularly for the validation and the scaling purposes. Okay. So we had raised about 20 lakhs of debt fund to survive for another couple of months on the month of April. So we had to have some money going in order to do the validation. As you know, the clinical validation is really complicated and cost intensive. So we applied for Kawach Grant, and Kawach was giving more or less the money to the PPE companies and the companies who were making sanitizer and things like that. But our initial data was extremely good. In fact, we got 92% accuracy to detect asymptomatic cases. For RT-PCR test, it was 67% in first 8 days. Okay. So in that, the department saw a value in scalability and in terms of the solidity of the science. So we got it, but we missed out on some of the other grants that we had also applied for. So it is more or less like your ability to present the data, present the science, and present the purpose in a concise way. There were 16,000 applications, I guess, in Kawach. So it was a very fascinating, outcome that we had.
And how can other startups apply for these grants?
Yeah, so not only Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Government of Karnataka, for instance, every year comes up with a grant program called Elevate Grant. We won that Elevate Grant program back in 2018. So there are other grant programs, and that's a very good way to use government money for the research and development purpose, particularly if your startup is a technology startup that solves a problem which is related to masses of the society. India provides you a lot of opportunities. The money never is a problem. You can always go for the grants.
Right.
If you somehow connects to social, then there is Social Alpha and the other people who also offers financial support.
All right. So you mentioned you even streamlined your processes and operations. What benefits you gained out of it?
Sure. So to start with, Acculi Lab was a care mobile diagnostic company. We had a clinical grade application called Lifers, where you keep your finger in the mobile camera for 3 minutes and it does a lot of picks up biomarker, and then it gives you your health condition, various health condition, and then finally we were able to detect COVID with that. But in the point of care setup, as you know, when COVID started, so detecting if somebody has a COVID or not was not enough for us. We needed some kind of therapeutics to also support the patient. And as a technology company, we do not have the patient experience delivery in place. We are just a technology company doing the diagnostic test. When the COVID story unfolded and when we started screening people and detecting their COVID, we had to develop some home-based therapeutics by means which we can also recover them. And that's how our journey of process, building process and building patient experience and then end-to-end ecosystem building started just as a need. So we also started our vertical called therapeutics vertical, which was more or less home remedy-based vertical. And I'm proud to say that we did 850 interventions during last 3 months, COVID patients. 2 were hospitalized. We did not have any ICU admission and, of course, no mortality. So I take a lot of pride in that. So the entire processifying and structuring the business into human intelligence, human experience, as well as technology happened out of the need, because only technology was not enough to save lives and that. So we had to impact more lives, and that's how it turned out.
Awesome. And how did you raise funding at different levels?
Our funding story is probably one of the fascinating funding stories you'd hear across the startups.
Yeah.
I personally won various hackathons to fund my startup.
Okay.
Pitching contests, I used to go to a lot of pitching contests. We used to win 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 1 lakh. So we have cracked several such hackathons to manage about 30 to 40 lakhs of rupees, which funded our company. Number 2 was this is my 30th year almost in the business. I've been in business since the age of 11. So I understand that customer money is the best money. So even at the early stage when our technology was not fully developed, we built certain modules, certain services, and we kept on selling. Even though it was a small amount, 4 lakh in every 3 months, 4 months, but that's a good amount for a startup. 20,000, 30,000 is a good amount for a startup. So that funded, that is pre-sale. You can call it a pre-sale. So we continue to sell various side products. That was the second. And I have pitched to about 180 angels before we got our first funding. People thought our story was too good to be true.
Yeah.
There were probably not many angels left in India whom we have not pitched. But then as we kept on pitching, our story got refined and that helped business also. Finally, Anova Ventures, Shekharji from Chennai, they put up money. It was closed within 2 days. That deal was closed and money was in within 2 days. No due diligence, no paperwork. So that was fascinating. They
Awesome.
Completely money on the vision. That was the angel round. Before that, we had cracked Elevate Grant. So there was another 22 lakhs that helped us grow. Then with that angel fund, we did our clinical validation. It was one of the largest scale clinical validation by any mobile diagnostic application. We did about 1,100 cardiac patient screening in BLK hospital. And that ended in the month of December 2019 when we got our certification C and the other things. So we were not looking forward really for a big fund at that time. We wanted to build the business. So from friends and family, we raised another 17 lakhs or so. It was a very small round because we knew that by March we'll be going live and the revenue would be sufficient to drive our company. But unfortunately, the revenue did not come. But then again, the destiny had some other plans for us. We cracked COVID. DSP came forward, supported us. And then when Health Minister of India, they tweeted about us and many other people started seeing value in us.
Yeah.
That was the time when the other venture capitalists and, micro ventures, they started taking the interest. And finally, we got invested by Fire Ventures, Mumbai.
That's great. Now, finally, according to you, what are the 3 important traits of entrepreneurship?
See, I have always believed, experienced and maintained that the business is by the human, for the human, to the humans. It is not the technology that is going to ensure your success or failure. It is just good you read human, how good you can build network, how much you can selflessly work for the humans or build the human connections. Yeah. That is what going to, at the end, build the entire business. The second thing is that whether you are in a family business or first-time entrepreneur, startup or small and medium-scale business will give you a couple of instances in your career where you would be left with nothing. I mean, your business will fail, things will not go out well, and you will feel like giving up. You will have no money and your relationship will be strained. That you should always synthesize the failure. You should always try to do something which may cause complete venture to be completely gone. I mean, give yourself those failure opportunities so that your mind gets accustomed to deal with such kind of difficult situations. And the third thing, which I have been the consistency and the discipline. It's easy to do certain work for 60 hours continuously, but it is very difficult to do certain work every day 10 hours for continuous 10 years. That your compound interest of the compound numbering comes into picture. I mean, you keep on working harder, but at a very ruthless consistency, whereby, over a period of 5 to 6 years, your competitors actually loses their steam. It is not easy for people to maintain that steam for 10, 12 years. If you continue to be disciplined with what you are doing, the success should be yours. That's what I feel. So consistency, practice to failure, and human relationship. I guess these are the 3 things that makes a very good entrepreneur.
With this, we have reached at the end of this podcast. Rupam, thank you so much for coming on board to Desire Audio and sharing some great insights. I'm sure it will be great motivation for all the entrepreneurs listening to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Nitinji. I wish you all the best for your podcast. I hope that you keep on bringing great content. Particularly in the fundraising, your content has been very, very enlightening. And I wish all the best through your channel to all the existing and new entrepreneurs. All the best, guys, and all the best, Nitinji.
Lastly, I want to thank all the listeners who took their valuable time to listen to this podcast. Keep rocking, be safe, and don't forget to share.